Hi, everybody. Today I'm kind of going to go on a rant. Um, First of all, I want to apologize for not getting you a Wake the People video last week. It's just been a little bit hectic, and I may not be able to get you one every week, but I want to at least get you something. So sometimes it's not going to have a whole bunch of pictures and it's not going to be a full PowerPoint, but there's some things going on that I'd like to talk about. We're going to talk about rap music today. Now, my association with secular music was over back in the early 80s. I think the last album that I was paying any attention to was Janet Jackson's Control. And some of you are probably too young to even remember that, but I have not been really keeping up with it intently. I've been hearing things. And lately, there are some things going on that I'd like to talk about. And it involves race relations. The powers that be are a structure that these folks, they have a structure, they have a system in place to make sure that they stay in power by hook or crook, whatever that is. And it doesn't matter who gets hurt, it doesn't matter who is damaged. If someone tries to upset their apple cart, that person's going down. The powers that be want to make sure also that you don't know what's going on. There are a lot of things that are happening, and if you just pay attention to the mainstream media, you'll never know what's happening. I get people to come to me with what they heard on mainstream media, and I have 5 facts to tell them about what they're talking about that they didn't know about, and they're surprised and confused. And I keep telling them, you pay attention to what they want you to hear, and that's all that you're going to know unless you do research on your own. There are other news outlets. There are news outlets in other countries that I found out stuff about 6 months before it finally hit here. And the only reason it came here is because they couldn't hide it anymore. So there's a lot of things been hidden. Now, concerning rap music, I didn't even know that Kanye West was a rapper. I knew that he made a lot of money. I knew that he was some kind of a mogul, but at some point or another, he was a rapper. His name came to light from someone introducing me to some situations that have come about as to some things that he said. Now, from what I understand, this man is or was a billionaire with a B, but he said some things to upset the apple cart, and he's been demoted in a big way. Now, my problem with this whole thing is all of that so-called music, as derogatory and vile as it is, gets past all of these companies, all of these corporatocracy, the government, the banksters, the big corporations, and they pipe this stuff into the Black community, into the small communities, and it's everywhere basically. But most of these people that are rappers, except for the one named Eminem and maybe some other ones that I don't know about, they are, and even he's from Detroit. Shout out to Detroit. They are mostly saying stuff that's derogatory and negative and is not uplifting to the community, yet they get funded. They get these large contracts. And I've heard Dave Chappelle and others talk about these contracts and how as they mature, because these guys are young when they first get these contracts and they see these big dollars and they'll sign on the dotted line, not realizing until later that they've signed away their life. They've signed away their name, the rights to all of their songs that they make up and all that. So when they get older and start looking at the money, and it's like my dad used to say, the way certain people count is 1 for you, 2 for me, 1 for you, and 2 for me. And when they start noticing that they're getting the 1 or the half, and other people are getting the 2 or the 3, then they wake up and say, wait a minute, this isn't right. It's my effort that's here. But they've already signed contracts, and I know of at least a couple of famous musicians or artists that have had to change their name so that they can continue on, because they couldn't even use their own name. Couldn't even use their own name because they signed their life away, not, unbeknownst. So they get goaded into this, and nobody's educating them up front, and they realize this later. And if they talk about it, then they get lambasted, and sometimes they lose a lot of money. These are people that live in the lost value system. I showed you guys a chart some time ago. You might want to go back to my first video about the voting, but the lost value system, where wealth is on the top and leisure is second. And these people live in wealth and leisure. They're all about the bag. They're all about, getting the clout, getting, all the likes, and getting a whole bunch of followers and all of that. But I believe I have a lot of respect now for this young man, Kanye West. They say he has mental problems, and they always want to tack that on to people, but he's saying some profound things at points. Sometimes I don't understand what he's saying, and sometimes he's way off, but he's not an idiot. He's not an idiot. And if you go back and follow the money, I'm that money person. You go back and you follow that money, you'll see who's in control of all of this foolishness, this rap music, if that's what you want to call it, music. But who's making sure that these songs about deleting people and calling women certain vile names, and talking about going to delete children at Planned Parenthood and all this stuff, and twerking in front of Planned Parenthood. Who is funding this? Follow the money, guys. Follow the money. Who's funding this? And who's laughing all the way to the bank while the Black community, the Latino community, and other communities get destroyed because our young people are listening to this foolishness? There is no reason why our kids should know the words to these rap songs and can't do math. There's no reason. There's no reason that these women running around everywhere to get a chance and sticking their butts in the air and doing this twerking and stuff to this music, talking about, the spirit caught me. What spirit was that? What spirit caught you? We got to do something. Anyway, before I get to that part, let's go back to the contracts. So the entertainers and also our young men in the sports field. I talked to one of I don't think he was a recruiter, but he had something to do with signing up young men that made it to the professionals in basketball and football. And this was a while ago at a speaking engagement. He was one of the speakers, and so was I. And we were at the lunch table, the VIP lunch table, and I was saying, I wish I got a chance to get hold to these young men before they get themselves into these contract situations, so that when at the end of their career, they won't have to teach college or high school PE because they've lost all their money. They have not been taught how to handle money. I don't care whether you get $500,000 or $5 million. If you don't know how to handle money, you're going to be broke and you're going to be bankrupt. And a lot of them are. And so these people that are their handlers, they don't give a hot flash about these people. They just want their cut out of it. So they make bad decisions for these people. They put them in awful investments that they really know or don't care whether they fail or they succeed. But these people are so happy just to get this money because they're coming out of the hood or coming out of the projects or whatever, and they haven't seen this much money. And I said, I wish I could get to them and at least let them know stuff like, hey, don't go get the $2 million house, because once your career is over, whether or not you retire out of it or you get hurt, you're going to have maintenance on that. And you may not have the money coming in to take care of that. So why don't you just go get a nice house out on some land somewhere that doesn't cost $2 million and pay it off, and then, start saving up money for the maintenance. That's just one simple thing that I could tell them. But, what he said was some of them would listen, but a lot of them wouldn't, because they want to go and have all the bling bling and have the OG over gold. OG has a different meaning, but when I say OG, I mean over gold. They have so much gold around their necks that they can't even hold their heads up. And these kind of things, that's not our culture. That was created for us by the powers that be. Remember, I talked about the biology, the culture, and the environment, the bioculturon. So that's a part of it. Hey, you're good for this. This is what you're good for. You can't come out and talk about making sure that there's no, I can't say the word on YouTube. You can't say things that are going to help. You got to say stuff that will hurt. And I want to use an example. Denzel Washington. Oh my gosh, that man has made some powerful, wonderful movies. But when he finally won that award, I think it was an Emmy or Oscar, whatever you call those awards, he won it for being a straight up thug. And I feel like he was thinking, oh my gosh, I won this award for being a thug. That same year, Halle Berry won it for being a thought. So it's almost like the powers that be in Hollywood are saying, yeah, as long as y'all are acting like this and not educating people and not building a community, you're going to get the awards and stuff. And that's what I see that's going on. I just don't see us moving forward as long as there are people that are in control of the finances. And you all know I talk about finances a lot, but this is a serious situation where the finances are being controlled in the entertainment industry. We spend too much time in a lot. Okay, guys, that was the weirdest thing. I was sitting up there in the middle of this video and the computer totally shut down. Originally, I thought that just the screen went blank, and I looked over and my power cord wasn't in. And sometimes, your screen is up for a while, but if your power isn't on, the screen will go off. It wasn't that. The whole computer shut down, and I was at 99% power and still is. So that was just strange. But I'm going to get back to my rant about the contracts and the rappers. I was talking about how the entertainment industry and the sports industry are controlled by the powers that be, whatever they are, whatever their race, religion, national origin, whatever that is. And it has done nothing positive for us in years, decades. Our communities are going down left and right. We're fighting each other. We're killing each other. Our children are growing up without a proper education. There's not a respect for life anymore, regardless of whether it's crime between the races or the so-called authorities or police officers and all that, just shooting people that are walking around with their hands up or with no weapon. It's gotten out of control. And I think it has a lot to do with the music industry. There's something called a syncopated beat. Go back and look that up and see how that's been used over the centuries and how a syncopated beat affects people, how it affects their minds. And you'll realize that there's something to that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that I'm not going down right now. But our young people for the last several decades have been getting into these contracts. They've not been taught and trained how to handle money. So they're going broke and they're not understanding the contract that they signed. So they get angry when they figure out that they've been taken advantage of. They are not getting the lion's share of their work. Whatever it is they created, they've signed it over to these, record labels or whoever they're dealing with, the banksters. And then when they say something that offends one or two people, then boom, you lose your bank account, you lose your contracts and all of that because you said something that offended some people. Forget about free speech. You just can't offend certain people. The hand that feeds you. So what needs to happen is we need to vote with our dollars and stop feeding that hand. I told you guys that I was going to talk about, I told you guys that I wished I had put the lost value system chart up. Shout out to Dr. Spencer Holman that created the chart. But since my computer went down, I decided to go back and pull that chart in, and it wasn't where I thought it was. So I'm glad that it's here. So as you see, wealth is at the very top, our accumulation of and possession of what we consider as valuable. And a lot of these people are lost. A lot of these people, their lives are broken. They've got all kind of chaos going on in their life, but they went after the bag. And there are a lot of them that are depressed and hurting and just, but that's what happens. They're led like a horse with a carrot in front of it to go after this bag their vision is not clear because they haven't been taught. So we need to start educating our children, not indoctrinating them in the government schools. And if your kid has to go to government school, fine. You don't have time to be watching television at night. You need to be going over your children's work, teaching your children not just what they learned in school, but teach them about life. Teach them how to navigate what's going on out there. Teach them how to understand what they're seeing, and not just let them be pulled into this society, because this society is jacked up and you all know it. It doesn't make any sense for our children to be pulled into this. Sit down and have dinner. And that's something that doesn't happen anymore. Everybody sit down at the table, have dinner, talk about the day, find out what's really going on in your children's lives. What are they learning in school, whatever kind of school they go to? And if it's something that's not right, tell them it's not right. And if it's something that you need to go and talk to the school about, do that. Those people up in Dearborn, Michigan didn't like what was being taught in their school system. They flooded, they 10x'd the auditorium till they had to shut it down because there were too many people in there, because those people were not going to stand for their children being taught whatever. And we're not going to go over that. Go in Google or your search engine and look at Dearborn, Michigan school board. They got bombarded. They got blitzed with all those parents because they were trying to sneak that foolishness into the school. But you can't just shrug your hands. You can't just be too busy out there doing whatever you're doing and not paying attention to your children. This is our next generation. And the last two generations, we haven't done so well. And I have to say, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm making sure that I right the wrongs that I did by being too busy trying to go and, get the bag, that I'm not paying attention to what's going on with society. So here we are with situations with these young people that are making all this awful music. And I'm talking about women rappers also. There are girls out there, women out there that are just vile with the words that they're saying. And your children shouldn't be listening to this, whether it's in your home, whether it's in your vehicle, whether it's in their schools, wherever they are. Yeah, there are certain people's houses that we wouldn't let our children go to because we knew they played that vile music. And I don't want my ears molested, and I surely don't want my children's ears molested. So we've got to vote with our dollars. I talked about this on the other channel, the Sherry Peel Jackson channel too. Voting with our dollars, getting away from all of this foolishness that's bringing the community down. Note that this stuff is being funded by the powers that be. All these powerful corporations and their CEOs and executives and executors and CFOs. These are the people that are making the decisions to put all these toxins in our ears, to put all these toxins in our bodies too, concerning food. But you all know that story. We're not going to talk about that one. But all of the stuff that goes into your ears, your ear gate and your eye gate. The eyes are the window to the soul. That's why all of these rap videos are so just, they're an abomination. This goes into your spirit when you look at this stuff. When you look at those people and what they're doing, they're gyrating to the syncopated beat that I talked about earlier. And I'm going to join these two broken videos together. I don't know. I can't explain why my computer just went dead. I can't, but it did. But I'm going to put those two videos pieces together into one like they should have been. But I want you guys to pay attention to what's going on. Now, you might live in a nice little or big subdivision and you don't have to deal with this. But if you got children or grandchildren, they're dealing with it. So you got to pay attention. Don't think that you live in a bubble, because that bubble will pop and you want to be prepared. You don't want to be just like a fish out of water. Make sure that you know what's going on with the music and what's going on with the television and the videos that your children and grandchildren are watching on television and on their computers and on their phones. You got kids as young as 5, 6, 7 years old that have iPhones. What are they paying attention to? It's not about keeping them busy. What are you keeping them busy doing? What are they learning while you're doing something else? Ask yourself that question and act accordingly. So I'm going to wrap this up. I know that, like I said, it was a rant, but I'm looking at what's going on out there. I'm seeing what certain people are saying, like Kanye West. And look, if the jacket fits, zip it up. Make sure that you understand what the media narrative is for you to think about this young man versus what he's really saying. about how the music industry works and how things are being taken away and how this horrible music is being pumped into society. And it's okay for that, but it's not okay when you oppose it. And I'm opposing it. I'm not a big wig. I don't have millions of followers, but I'm out there, and I have a voice, and I'm voicing it. Stop listening to all that foolishness. Stop letting your children, your grandchildren listen to all that foolishness. They need to be listening to some classical music, some jazz, something that they can learn about. You know, jazz music and classical music have been known to help children be smarter, but they don't need to listen to all that foolishness. Shelter your children away from people who spend a lot of time listening to that, because it also causes violence. That syncopated beat causes people to do things, just like liquor causes people's minds to do certain things. That music does also. Okay, so I'm gonna move this on. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And please leave your comments below concerning what you think about how the powers that be have been using the culture to invade and degrade the communities of our country. Please do that. And guess what else? Please continue to wake the people. This is Sherry Peel Jackson out.